What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Claudia Bellafato holding it down for us in the DraftKings studio back in Boston. We got a great show for everybody. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and check us out here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Our YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, Roku, and more. Should be a fun one today, despite the fact that it sounds like I'm talking to you out of a tin can right now. I am in South Bend, Indiana. We have the Golic Family Subpar Classic coming up this weekend, so I'm out here helping make the preparations here, checking in, and it's very good because, as I will tell you guys about in a minute here, I have a very important thing I have already been able to do, and an important Father's Day gift I have already been able to give my dad in the about 20 minutes that I have been awake here in South Bend, Indiana. But Claudia, why don't you tell the people what else we got coming up today?
And you guys told me off camera, my mind blown. So we will get to that. We're going to get to the Mavs and the Oilers, who both stay alive for a Game 5. Crazy how both of those series has gone in the NBA and NHL. Man of the people, Bryson turns into a fan favorite after the U.S. Open win. And time to retreat. What we know about Aaron Rodgers' mini camp absence and what people are assuming. But first, let's get to the fact that you guys are together. It was Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day to you. GoJo getting some brownie points over here for certain things that he taught you this morning. And also, you had a great U.S. Open finish. We'll break all of that down. But first, GoJo, please share with the audience.
Yes, this has been a whirlwind of a morning already. So again, the usual round of things that I get when I come out here are what we're dealing with right now, which are technical difficulties.
Yes.
Because nothing can ever work normally or correct.
No.
And, you know, for reasons that no one can even figure out.
And I didn't do anything wrong.
No one's done anything wrong.
Right.
That's always the thing.
Okay.
It's like it's no one's fault.
But normally it's point to the old guy who has no idea how to do technology.
No, but in this case, I do get to point to you because I go upstairs this morning and normally I have my own cold coffee at home where I'm at my apartment, and up here I have to, live in Dad's world, which is a hot coffee-filled K-cup world. And so I go to use my dad's Keurig, and I'm looking down the drawer where I think all the K-cups are, trying to get ready to get some juice for this morning to talk about Bryson and to talk about the Celtics and Mavs and all that blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking down there, and I'm like, all right, I see a bunch of K-cups in here, but they're all decaf. Yeah. And so I call over to my dad. I'm like, Dad, do you have any, K-cups in here with caffeine in them? I want some coffee. He's like, yeah, there's the donut ones are in there. And I'm looking down. All of the donut ones are decaf. I bring my dad over and show him this, and his response initially is, well, how do you know they're decaf? Mostly, I said, because of the letters in the middle of the K-cup that said decaf.
Yeah, missed those.
So so now in hindsight, you realize that last week you were a little grouchy, you were a little tired, and you realized it's because you weren't caffeinated. So the placebo effect did not work on you.
Yeah, there were those that said, well, look at the placebo effect if you had the same feeling. But I didn't. I felt like tired last week. And I was like, man, why am I tired? I'm getting sleep and everything. And now I know why. And luckily, I had another box of K-cups.
Oh, you had a whole gigantic box of K-cups that had caffeine.
That actually have caffeine.
That you just weren't drinking. I felt really bad for you because I don't know. I've always maintained that decaf feels like kind of a sin because you get the same taste and maybe some of the fixation, but clearly your body is not doped enough with caffeine yet to just take that for taste alone.
I like every now and then the taste. I love the taste of coffee, so occasionally I'll drink it later in the day and I'll drink decaf. Unlike But one thing I have to say, I've never had a alcohol-less beer. It was kind of the same thing.
You've never had an NA beer?
No, I've not. I've never had that. So I do it with coffee. I have not done it with beer. So I'm thank you for doing that, because I would have just kept drinking the rest of that decaf. There's still about 20 K-cups in there of decaf, which I put to the side for later in the day. But I needed it this morning because great Father's Day gift for you. I mean, you come to my town last night, or our town, I guess I should say.
My town.
And you're supposed to land at like 9 o'clock. I'm getting you around midnight. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I apologize for holding up the plane.
Yeah.
Going out there on the runway, flattening its tires, leaving the fuel out there, all of those things that I did in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Because I was thrilled.
All I know is I had to pick you up, and you were the one that was like 3 hours late. So I'm blaming you.
This is what my dad likes to do, is blame me for things that, A, I couldn't control, but also offers that I made. I told him, Dad, it's 2024. Uber's everywhere, even in South Bend, Indiana, against all odds. I can just Uber from the airport. Over and over again, I offer. And over again, he says no.
Claudia, could you imagine the narrative this morning coming on air and Mike saying, yeah, I come
you mean like the narrative right now?
I come to visit my parents and they make me take an Uber when the airport's 10 minutes from their house.
Would have been totally understandable given the time of night. Yet you hold on to this just for narrative purposes.
This is what fathers do for their children. Okay?
They don't do it to then loudly complain in public about it.
Well, a lot of them don't have a microphone.
Okay.
I do. So I get to complain about it. After spending a day of power washing the driveway, which is what I did on my Father's Day.
That sounds sick.
Oh, it was phenomenal. There is nothing like power washing. Nothing of watching it come clean and the dirt off and the way, oh my God.
It's just that instant gratification.
It's just fantastic.
It's one of the few chores that comes with instant gratification.
It really does. It really does. And your mother, my wife, just looks at me when I say, come look at this driveway. She's like, every time I do something around the house, would you like me to call you over and show you?
She has a fair point.
She has a really fair point about that. Hey, Mike, come here. I loaded the dishwasher. Look at it.
Now, I will say, in fairness, I feel like there are very few things where it is as clear, like power washing, because of the nature of the tools, makes it so clear and apparent.
One of the greatest things there is.
It really, and we were trying to think about it with Father's Day and the Olympics going on right now. What would be in the Dad Olympics? At GoJo Golic on Twitter, if you could nominate an event for the Dad Olympics, power washing would have to be like what U.S. men's basketball or U.S. women's soccer have been as one of the premier events each and every time.
And I went out and I got you have just a regular power wash. If you try to do a driveway with a regular power washing nozzle, it would take you infinity years.
Yes. Oh, you'd be out there.
So I got the circular one. I had a circular one. Now, unfortunately, the bigger ones, like the 15-inch in diameter ones, only work with a gas. And I have an electric. Yeah. So I had to get the 12-inch circular, but this one had 3 caster wheels on it. Three. So now it moves around a lot easier than the other one I had that didn't have any wheels, that you just kind of push along. So I found even a little more ease in covering more space while doing this driveway.
Claudia, I take it you haven't done a lot of power washing in your day, judging by the quizzical looks.
Nope. But I'm happy to see you guys bond in something like this. It's beautiful. I'm learning a lot of things. We're learning that reading is fundamental. Yeah, no, it's good. All good things this one day.
There are a lot of very important things that have gone, and everyone. That's the secret to happiness. That's all you need for a happy Father's Day, right there. Just a little bit of power washing that's gone on.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, or gifts from your kids, which I didn't get any. So there's that. There's go out and it's 90 degrees and stifling humid here. Go out and power wash, or open the gifts that your kids sent you. Since I didn't have that to do, I just went out and power washed.
Your gift is sitting right there. Your gift is right next to you, Senior.
Exactly.
Can I?
You picked your gift from the airport.
Where do I return this gift?
It's too late.
It's Child Protective Services. So call them and get them. We hope everybody had as good a Father's Day as my dad did, power washing.
Yes.
Again, if you've got anything else that would be great for the Dad Olympics, please let us know here. Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Hey, thanks,
great
son.
to see you.
Yeah,
Bob.
great. Thanks.
In the meantime, Claudia, why don't we talk about a little bit of that Dallas Mavs boss?
Yeah.
We went on here, and of course, in my defense, I told everyone. I said, fade me on this because I am getting off the narcotic that is the Dallas Mavericks. I can't believe in them anymore publicly because it's embarrassing for me. And so, of course, right on cue, which isn't even the worst of my old takes exposed sins from this weekend, Claudia, the Dallas Mavericks immediately find that gear that they had been missing and absolutely wallop the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I knew that it's really hard to get 3, in a row, 4 in a row against a good team like Dallas was, but I did not expect Dallas to come back with a 38-point win. I don't think anybody expected that. I want to get into those numbers specifically, but I also want to compare this NBA Finals to the Stanley Cup because listen to these numbers, right? Both the Panthers and Celtics failed to sweep in 4, so possible gentleman sweeps coming. But with that lead of 3-1, the Celtics now 402 points scored in this series. The Mavs have more, 408, despite not looking great for those first 3 games. Total goals scored in the Stanley Cup final. Panthers lead 3-1. Oilers 12, Panthers 12. So despite these storylines seeming like, okay, Panthers, Celtics, nobody can stop them, they're going to sweep. It's actually tied for the Oilers, Panthers, and goals, and the Mavs have more points than the Celtics. I don't know how much you want to read into that, but the bottom line is the Oilers got an 8-1 win, and the Mavs got a 38-point win. And in that basketball game, I think the Celtics were just tired, guys. I think the Celtics knew, hey, we're going to go home and we're going to win it at home, and that's going to be okay. They had 13 turnovers, out-rebounded by 20. Mavs outscored them in the paint 60-26. And we had this whole long conversation about the three-pointers, and yes, you can outscore them in the paint, but the threes are what's going to win the game. And it just didn't happen in this one, but that's okay, right, Senior? Because they can come home and win it tonight.
All that stat you gave about the goals, tied with goals, and the Mavs have more points is for those that haven't watched any of the series and look at it and say, oh, even though it's 3-1, maybe it's closer than we think. No, it's not.
Nope.
No, it's not. It was a blowout game and a blowout hockey game and a blowout basketball game. And you know what? Stuff happens. And when those games get away from you, what you do is you just put them away. I don't know at what point in that game, both those teams, both Florida and Boston were like, okay, we'll go on to game 5. We'll be cool. And the game just got away from them. I take absolutely zero out of not only the 2 wins, but the fact that they're good wins. And we thought that may happen as we were getting ready to maybe talk about 2 sweeps. We're talking about none. But the scoring and the lopsidedness means is absolutely zero to me.
No, it's one of those. The decision you could actually probably pinpoint for both of them because I feel like the Celtics went to their bench pretty early on in the 4th quarter, maybe even late in the 3rd quarter. And it was for the Panthers when they just pulled Sergei Bobrovsky and said, hey, you know what? We're just going to let you go and yuck it up on the bench for a little bit. It's been a long night. And this is more to me just about it's difficult to manufacture urgency. And the urgency on one side of 2 of these teams, both in their cases with some of the best players and highest competitors on planet Earth, deciding they weren't ready to go and be embarrassed. And for the Edmonton Oilers, it was Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and Hyman and all their stars actually showing up in the same game and getting this done. 4 points for Connor McDavid in this game. Awesome stuff there. And then for the Dallas Mavericks, they had the combination of Luka Doncic going out there with a much better attitude, which we predicted and said, hey, we've seen him in this postseason when he gets called out for complaining too much and staying back for the refs, and they read him the riot act in that locker room or whatever voodoo Jason Kidd does in there. Then he comes back out the next game and has a way better attitude. But, Dad, as much as anything else, it was pretty simply Kyrie and Luka also shared the ball with everybody else. It wasn't just iso ball with your 2 best stars. And to the point about 3-point differential that Claudia brought up, Boston was plus 49.3-point differential in attempts through the first 3 games of the series. That was that point the largest through 3 games in NBA history. This last time around, the Mavs took 37 three-pointers, the Celtics took 41, and Dallas just made a lot more of them. The Dallas role players finally decided to show up, and part of that was their stars involving them, and part of that was just what happens when you're at home and finally comfortable, and that's the exact part I can't count on when the series shifts back to Boston.
And the other part is going to be Kristaps Porzingis. Is he back? Because it was 60 to 29 points in the paint. You knew that's what Dallas was going to do, right? they were going to attack and still be in the paint.
And it's what they did in Game 3, and it didn't matter in Game 3 because they couldn't knock down shots.
Yeah, so now they hit outside shots, and they're scoring in the paint. So Porzingis trying to do everything he can to get back for this game, which they keep calling the rare leg injury, as we tried to pronounce it the other day of what it actually was.
A unicorn.
Yeah, exactly, with a unicorn injury. So we'll see if he's able to get back, because we know what effect he can have in the paint. Both these series, it's only, as far as Claudia and talking the betting lines, it's only, is it over in 5 or is it over in 6? Or can anybody take it to 7? We know only one time in hockey in 42, somebody came back down 3-0. It's never happened in the NBA. I don't think it's happening either time here. It's just a matter, can anybody get it to a Game 7 where we're like, oh, wow, this really turned into a series?
Yeah, well, it's again, did you see anything that was replicable? And Claudia could speak to this probably better in terms of hockey in this situation. I look at that, though, and go, all right, Florida's defense collapsing another game and Sergei Bobrovsky having another one where all of a sudden he's going to let up, I think he let up 5 of the 8 goals or 6 of the 8 goals. I don't think that we're going to count on that happening again, much the same way that at this point in this series, the Dallas Mavericks, especially on the road, where forget just the role players, like we thought Kyrie Irving was rattled in Boston for the first couple of games of this series. And so now all of a sudden I'm to believe that everything's fine just because just one game, Claudia, at home. Because the game before that, my dad said, we went out, we had a first quarter where the Mavs got out to a hot start. Right. Boston walked them down, and then the rest of the game, even without Kristaps Porzingis, was them bullying them. Yes, you got better defensive effort from Luka Doncic, which certainly helps set the tone. Yes, you got that performance from the role players. No, I don't think any of that is replicable back in the unfriendly confines of TD Garden. I don't know about you, Claudia.
Yeah, and I mean, I played sports at a very low level, of course, in high school, but I'm sure you guys can speak to this too. And you said it with the urgency, but it's almost like even if you're not telling yourself it's okay if we lose this one, when you're falling behind by 20 points and you're like, oh, we could go home and win it, you probably take your foot off the pedal. You're talking about it, they put the subs in there. And the same goes for hockey too. Sergei Bobrovsky, like I said, has been standing on his head throughout the postseason in this series. And he's a little tired. So when you let in 5, you're probably like, yeah, I'm good with going to the bench. I'll come out. I'll win it for you guys in this next one. So I think when it really comes down to it, it's mentality. But you guys are totally right. I would not read into those numbers. That's just what they gave me to read out because it's interesting for people on the outside. But yes, no, we have 2 very good teams in the Panthers and Celtics, and they showed that up until this. Like I said, Celtics only lost 2 games before that, so they're going to be just fine, and the odds reflect that too. Celtics 6.5-point favorites in this spot. Open 7, so a little bit down. Some money on the Mavs, of course. Some people are going to jump at that 6.5, but the books still say the Celtics will close this one out. And same for the Panthers, -135 favorites tomorrow.
You know who probably put out those number wants everybody to buy into them is ABC and ESPN. Yeah. And look, the series is really closer than you think. Make sure you keep watching because we're all believing it's not going to last that long. But now it's like, hold on, look how close it is, even though it's 3-1.
It's one of those things that, absolutely serves that master when it comes to this, who had to be looking and hearing the conversation about how lackluster both finals had been. It had been a largely unentertaining series in both sports at the championship level, which they had to contend with. And then also, I think just personally for everybody involved, right? Connor McDavid has spent so much time hearing the narrative about his ability to get over to this point here. And so getting a win and showing some sign of life there, huge for him. For Dallas and Kyrie Irving, a group that we talked about, is going to have a really difficult road in the Western Conference from here on out, given all the youth and now playoff experience in this side, for them to go out there and literally and metaphorically see the ball go through the basket on this stage, probably going to be huge for whatever happens with that team next season as they develop.
I'm going to get this in because I did the work to get it, just in case we did the show today and we had 2 sweeps.
There you go. You ready?
Okay. We only had 2 years where this has happened, where you had a sweep in the NBA and the NHL finals in the same year. 83, it was the Islanders over Edmonton and 76ers over the Lakers in sweeps. And in 95, it was the Devils over Detroit and Houston over Orlando in sweeps. So it only happened 2 times before. We thought we had a pretty good chance we were going to get a third, but we didn't. But damn it, I did the research on that, and I was getting it in.
Okay? Good stuff.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
All right.
You did that with no caffeine in your bloodstream, too.
And I hope what I just told you is right.
Yeah. I was going to say
it with conviction.
No, there are no sources.
There are no sources on this. It is literally, it says NBA sweep and NHL sweep, and then it's got the 2 years and the names on there. I have no idea where he got this information from. I have no idea if he checked it with anyone. Because again, my dad was just out here raw dogging life with no caffeine last week. So I have no idea what his brain was making happen.
You can almost not count anything I did last week.
That is true. You can wipe the slate clean.
I wasn't caffeinated. Yeah.
You know what? I have no idea how much caffeine Bryson DeChambeau takes in the body of a given day anymore. But what I do know is, coming up next, we got to get to now what I think is one of the most likable characters in sports, walking off the final green down at Pinehurst #2 as your U.S. Open champion. How did Bryson DeChambeau pull it off? And is Rory McIlroy ever going to be able to recover from what we saw next?
Rory took a #2 out.
It is indeed a Mic'd Up Monday here on GoJo and Golic, and we are talking the U.S. Open because what a crazy finish it was. Bryson DeChambeau wins it. He was plus 2,000 to win it, so if you have that ticket, you're probably feeling pretty good today. He started the final round with a 3-stroke lead, briefly lost that lead to McIlroy in the back 9, but then McIlroy bogeys 15, misses 2 putts of less than 4 feet in the final 3 holes. DeChambeau gets it into the bunker, great shot out of it, and then gets the putt, something that McIlroy couldn't do to win it. Here's the sound with the win.
Well, Mike, first off, I want to say happy Father's Day to every father out there. And unfortunately, my dad passed a couple years ago, and this one's for him. I haven't really let it sunk in yet. And tonight, I want all of you guys, somehow, I want you guys to touch this trophy because I want you to experience what this feels like for me. You are a part of this journey this week, and I want you to be a part of it for the after party.
All right. The after party is funded by Bryson. Ladies and gentlemen, 2024 and now two-time United States Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau.
A man of the people. Everyone was smiling ear to ear. If you're not watching this on TK Network or YouTube, everyone was so happy for him. I want to talk about the sort of villain to hero storyline with him, but then also, of course, Rory now 10 years, guys, without a major win. Did Bryson win this? Did Rory lose it? Is that a terrible way to look at it? Because that's how it feels, Senior.
Whenever you say something like that in any sport, we all do. It's usually a little of both, right? But Rory, I mean, I would lean more. If it wasn't, I would say, boy, Rory really lost it. If it wasn't for the two shots Bryson had on 18, hitting it into the rough, and then just all he could do was punch it into the sand, and then getting the sandy, the sand save. I mean, was unbelievable. So because of that, I would say still more percentage of Rory, who bogeyed 3 of the last 4 holes. He missed, as Claudia said, 2 putts inside 3 feet. Putts like that, he hadn't missed this year. He was 486 out of 486. He didn't miss 1. He missed 2. I mean, just think if it was a tie. U.S. Open, I believe they still do it this way. Or if they change it. This I don't know. Much like I'm sure about my NHL, NBA research.
You're limping into this one.
They normally played 18 the next day. I don't know if the U.S. Open, when it was tied, you played a whole nother round the next day. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if that's still the case or if they just do the playoff holes.
I don't think it is. We'd have to double check on that.
Because I loved when you got another 18.
Yeah, we were getting prepared for that. But then Rory, I do think ultimately, Deb, because of what you said, the heroics on 18 from Bryson, he deserves a ton of credit for that. I mean, he called that sand shot the greatest in his golf career, coming out of that bunker on 18, getting it up within striking distance, because all he needed at that point was par to win. Yep. Because you mentioned it, Rory McIlroy, that he went bogey on 15, 16, and 18. But the bogeys on 16 and 18 were putts. The first one, 2 feet 6 inches.
Wow.
That was the length of the first putt that lipped out. That is us.
Athletes just like us.
And then the second one, 3 feet 9 inches. So outside of that 3 feet grace zone that we had talked about. But still, for a guy who all weekend, and I got old takes exposed because of it, the flat stick had been working for him. Yeah. He was something like second in strokes gained on the green throughout the weekend at Pinehurst. And yet in those critical moments, Dad, and that's where you have to wonder how much this idea of a decade drought without a major championship is starting to weigh on Rory. How much? I mean, because when you look at everything that's gone into Rory, being the guy out there as the front of the face of the PGA during the live PGA battles, for it to be Bryson DeChambeau, the guy who is so proudly live golf and the one who is the poster child for it, and also the guy who's had his own sort of turnabout in terms of public opinion, for it to be him on that stage with Rory being this painfully close again, this is the kind of stuff. We watched him on camera in the locker room watching this. This is the kind of stuff that can be a Joker origin story for someone like him. Yeah, it was tough to watch. And then I guess uncharacteristically, because I hadn't seen him really do that before, blows off the media after that. And that was weak. They said he was in his private plane in the air before Bryson finished his presser. And then Bryson was all over the place. He was back out on the court as there was somebody, on the broadcast that was replaying his sand shot, and he went in the sand and was talking with it. I mean, the switches here. I mean, Rory was beloved for taking his stance right against the live players. Oh, yeah. And then he backed off on that, and now they're going to be getting together. And then he went through, the opinions of him of the divorce, which has now been called off. It looks like they're reconciling. But it seems like he has taken a turn to not being the, wow, Rory, our guy. And DeChambeau, this dude was not liked. This dude was this big, hulking golfer who was a golfing nerd as well. All his irons are the same height, and he basically used math all the time on the field and with everything, but was kind of standoffish as well. Now, I mean, you see he's lost some weight, he's playing well, and he treats he's out there signing autographs for people, taking pictures. The dude, he's 30 years old. He's becoming absolutely beloved out there. It's interesting. I know we do this a lot with athletes where they say, you don't know the media anything and it's not part of the job description or whatever. Rory not sticking around to answer questions just looks weak. Oh, it does. It's one of I don't mean weak like that. I mean weak like it's not the right move in that instance. He knows that. He's a guy that's
Right,
always been
right.
such a great ambassador for golf in the ways that we've talked about there. And I get it. Everybody has a moment where coming off that. I cannot imagine the mental anguish that he was trying to work through. But for everyone that's ever done it at a high level, it's part of the job to go out there and answer the questions and be accountable for what's going on there, even on the days that it sucks. But on the other side, for Bryson, you're right. And Johnson Wagner from the Golf Channel, who had been recreating.
Wasn't that great?
He has been doing this for a while, and a lot of them go really bad. And so the fact that this shot that he ends up putting up there, even closer than Bryson.
Well, the first one, though, he knocked it over the green.
The first one, he almost hit it into where the clubhouse was.
Yeah.
But the fact that Bryson came out there and it happened for that, it really is. And, Dad, I think it's a pretty simple formula for all this, because you mentioned, you think about Bryson's background. He came out, and everything about him was inaccessible. It was Bryson's this golf nerd at first. None of us really know what he's talking about. Same length irons in a game that's all about, and the PGA does this by design. Hey, we want it the same from the amateur level all the way up through this, in the way that we structure the courses, in the way we structure the game, in the way the fact that the pros have to score it themselves, because we want this game to be same all the way through for everyone, so people can see themselves in it. You couldn't see yourself in it with Bryson. Then he got big and was bombing balls off the tee, and he was also a bit standoffish. He was a know-it-all. He was a guy that felt like he acted like he knew better than everybody else. He was defiant towards the courses, and golf humbled him a bit at that point. Now he's realized, hey, man, if you just bring people along for the ride, it's amazing how much more they're going to love you. It's not quite Happy Gilmore, but it's kind of close to that. Where he's egging on the crowd, and he's going out there, and he's reaching out a little bit, because in sports, there is part of that where at times, I think all of us have been guilty of treating the people that watch the sport a little bit more antagonistically than we need to. And Bryson said, oh, no. He just said at the end there, I want you guys along on this ride with me. And the few instances, it's not hard what he does, where he just takes the time out and acknowledges the crowd and acknowledges the people going by. That little goes a long way in the grace that it's brought him. And I don't know if it's manufactured or not. And from where I stand, I don't care, because the results are the same.
I agree. I think it's been outstanding. And now we have the info out there that there may be the deal with the PGA and LIV, so we'll see where this goes. But I've loved it. I've loved watching him out there. I love when it looks pretty damn genuine. Again, we're sitting and just trying to read it. But either way, he's out there making people smile, making people happy. But just imagine, so we all hack it up on the weekends. Just imagine that there were two scenarios here. And forgetting the money, I mean, Bryson won 4.3 and Rory won 2.3. What the hell did Bryson get from LIV? I mean, these guys all have a ton of money. So it's a 3-footer, 2.5, 3-footer to win the U.S. Open. We can't replicate that. We sit there and try and replicate it while we're hacking it away on the weekends on a green. It actually was, and Rory missed it a couple of times, and Bryson hit it. When you stand over that putt and think it's an easy knock-in, and it normally had been, that in this crunch time he didn't make it.
I mean, our knees quake for $50 putts with our buddies out there hacking away at a Muni course. And that guy, which, by the way, shout out to Pinehurst. You want to talk, we'll do the all-weekend team later on. Pinehurst, what a phenomenal course. What a great tournament. We've been there before. Incredible hospitality. That all led to one of the biggest moments, a battle between two stars in sports. We'll get to another one coming up next here on GoJo Golic. Welcome back to GoJo Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Claudia Bellafato. And Dad, still sticking on the U.S. Open for a bit as Bryson DeChambeau is your champion here. The depths of sadness for Rory McIlroy probably need to be explored a little bit more. And I saw this stat, which was just staggering. Rory McIlroy is the first player to finish in the top 10 at 7 consecutive U.S. Opens since Jack Nicklaus back in 1977 and 1982. But that's not even the worst thing. He's the first to finish in the top 10 7 straight times and not win any of them in 114 years. So the stretch that Rory is on right now, and we talked about the mental part of this that weighs on you. Golf is so different in this way. And I always make fun of golf because, I mean, we played football. There were a million people shouting in the background when I was trying to block Aaron freaking Donald in the middle of the game so he wouldn't kill one of my teammates. And we didn't have anyone holding up their hands to make it go silent so I could concentrate on everything here. But in golf, that you've got to do that. And part of what you realize is in those quiet moments, man, when it's just you out there, and I've got teammates to my left and right to rely on. When you don't have that, all of a sudden, the doubt that can creep in if you're not careful, the mental part of golf and tennis and all these individual sports that's so different, you have to wonder, especially after something like this, Dad, the next time Rory gets close, it's just going to be a highlight reel of this playing over and over in his head. The thing that had been his overwhelming strength during the entirety of this weekend betrayed him in the most important moments, and he pooped his pants again. Yeah,
so you just wonder how mental it was because, there are times that people think, the pro athletes are robots. And can just perform. Well, you're right. There is that mental side, especially in a one-on-one when it's just you and your caddy. As DeChambeau said, he got great advice from his caddy on that sand shot he made, but it's basically just you swinging that club, and how much does it get you? Because you are human. And then when it builds and builds and builds to now a decade since your last major, and you've been right there at times, and you just can't close the door. You wonder how much that affects you because it obviously does.
Yeah, and it no doubt can creep in there in some of those dark moments. And with him storming out of there pretty quickly, we'll see how much it carries over going forward. We do want to give some love to the course, though, because we always talk about what people want out of major championships, especially the U.S. Open. And Pinehurst delivered. Pinehurst #2, producing a round where Bryson DeChambeau carded a 1-over in the final round. He's the first U.S. Open champion to record a score over par in the final round since Graham McDowell did at Pebble Beach in 2010. And so to see the pros challenge the way they were, I mean, Dad, Bryson probably... I feel like he went 50% on fairways in that final round. He was all over the place. He was in that native grass. It made him work for it and battle, and it made it more exciting at the end to see these guys not just be able to go out there and completely carve up a course. There
were 8 players only that went under par for the tournament. 3 were even, and the rest were over par. I mean, that's...
It felt earned, though, right?
Oh, I see. I always say I love tournaments where the players kind of get humbled a little bit, like at the Open when it's really bad weather wherever they're playing overseas, and it makes it difficult because you're just like, see that they can screw up a shot like we screw up a shot.
I think even Max Homa said that too after he missed the cut. He said, "I love going back home and rooting for the course to absolutely eat these guys alive, so I can make fun of the dudes that all just kick my ass."
I want to see this more than somebody winning at 22 under. Unless it's 22 and 21 under and there's a battle, you see a little bit of competition. But for the most part, you want to see the battle with the players against one another and against the course as well. And you certainly saw it there in Pinehurst. As you had said, we had gone there when we were at ESPN. We had a contest and a big group came with us. And it's frustrating.
Yes.
Forgetting even how they play it, it's oh my God, but it's beautiful. It was fantastic.
It's an awesome course, but those umbrella greens that we saw kill the tour pros. Imagine what they did to us.
My God.
It was terrifying.
Horrific.
10 out of 10 experience overall, but those greens do not recommend for the faint of heart there. So it was cool. And this tournament, we had what felt like a one-on-one down the stretch because Bryson and Rory were
with big names
ahead of the field. With big names. Yeah. It was good. It was one of those things, like you said, with the PGA Tour Live potential merger coming back. This is what and we talked about this. Scottie Scheffler, who was dreadful during most of this tournament relative to his normal standard. is not the most exciting character in golf. This was exciting. This is what people talk about, missing the guys like Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, who are big personalities, and especially at this juncture for Bryson's career. Man, what a shot of life he'd be week in and week out back on the court.
That's what we say. Get all the even with Scotty Scheffler saying, he's so dominant right now, and they said, well, he's not playing against all the best players. Right. Still, Scotty's a great golfer. Just had a bad 4 days here, bad weekend. But for the most part, that's what you want to see. You want to see the best against each other. And maybe in this new agreement, this is eventually what we'll get.
Maybe we'll have that possibility there. Claudia, though, speaking of best on best, we had a little bit of that in the rookie class in the W this weekend. And again, take down the sign. We have gone 0 days without a bunch of people being weird online about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Jesus.
I don't think it'll ever stop, to be quite honest. But yes, you mentioned it. The matchup, it was the Chicago Sky, Indiana Fever, which we've seen a few times already, but that means Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. There was a lot of different heated moments throughout the game, but the one that everybody is talking about is a hit. Angel Reese goes to block the ball when Clark is driving. She hits her in the head. This is in the third. It's upgraded to a flagrant one after review. There's sound from both players after the game. Here's what Angel Reese had to say about the officiating, though.
I mean, I'm always going for the ball, but y'all going to play that clip, 20 times before Monday? So, it's cool. Going back at looking at the film, I've seen a lot of calls that weren't made. I guess some people got a special whistle, but just being able to play hard as best as we can. I'm still proud of Camilla going on, still getting a double-double, and that's something y'all not going to be able to stop regardless of the referees. Like, we're here for a while. We're not going to be denied, it's no matter what you guys can try to do. But our goal is to win, and we're going to do whatever it takes to win and continue to do that.
Here we
I have thoughts about this, but Senior, let's hear what you think.
I feel bad, though, for Angel in this because she's not responding to this situation. She's responding to the sea of weird, awful takes that she should be suspended and all the, what she's getting in terms of the influx lately here is clearly affecting her. Because, again, I don't think this is about what she's getting on the court. I think this is about all the reaction that continues to pour in that has nothing to do with basketball in my mind and has everything to do with what people have built up around Caitlin Clark as a culture.
Yeah, I understand that part of it, but some of it she brings on herself as well. She plays the villain role well, like their Joker sneakers that she had.
But that's something I think she's been forced into again because people have positioned her opposite Caitlin Clark.
You make your choices. You don't have to go down that road of being the villain if she doesn't want to.
She has had very little agency when it comes to that in the court of public opinion with Caitlin Clark.
I don't care. You control when you're in front of the microphone what you say. And what did she do? She did the same thing we rip other athletes for. She blamed the refs and she blamed the media. You know what? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that. You know what? People have been getting calls in the NBA all the time. You want to say that? Yeah, it happens. It happens. And you know what? And you know what?
All the time, and she's being villainized for it in a way that most of those people are.
And your highlight will be shown 20 times. And you know what? Be happy about it. Because we do the same thing in the NBA if two very popular players, if one cracked the other one in the head. I agree. I think it was a basketball play. It caught her in the head, but it was the right move. But it was the right call. But then for her to sit there and say, you're going to show it 20 times. Yes, we are. We would do it in the NBA as well. And when those players would talk about it as well. And you handled it the way you did. You blame the refs, and then you blame the media.
We would also talk about the rest of the game, which hardly anybody is going to do in the media coming off this. And I think that is her frustration. That's been Caitlin's frustration. And that's been everyone else's is that's all we've done so far in the W coverage. We haven't talked about the fact that, hey, the Fever won back-to-back games for the first time all season.
Yes, they did.
That Caitlin Clark, who's had it up and down last few games, and in this game started off pretty slow, finished with a near triple-double with 23.
They can be frustrated, but they can't control that part of it. They can't control that part of it.
But I'm saying that's why they're frustrated.
Okay,
that's why
that's
a lot of these
fine to be frustrated, but that doesn't mean I have to sit there and give her a pass for blaming the refs and blaming the media. I mean, she can handle it differently. Okay, but handle it differently when you're in front of the microphone. But she seems to be embracing the villain role, which is fine if that's what you want to do. That's cool. If you feel you've been forced into it, you still have a choice on whether you're going down that road or not. And she seems to be going down that road, which is fine if she wants to do it. But don't get on us if you get a little backlash for some of the things you say.
I think this is more about the people that are saying she should be suspended.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
we're not all responding to the same stimulus. I am glad that no one here has gone and made that race.
God, no.
Because she absolutely shouldn't be suspended.
No.
And that's one of the dumbest takes I heard all week.
I agree with that.
It is time for the best of the best, the weekend roundup, the headlines you may have missed. Your all-weekend team, GoJo, what do you got?
Yeah, the all-weekend team. We're going to go second team and first team this time around of top performers from the weekend. And outside of dads everywhere who get a nod for this weekend, considering it was Father's Day.
Yes.
Even you, who didn't understand decaf on the label of the coffee there. It's okay. We'll get you through that
Senior
one, big
moment.
guy. We'll get to everyone else then for the rest of this, Dad. I want to start off second team for me. We mentioned on Friday that the Euros were getting started this weekend in European football. And what a moment for Christian Eriksen this weekend after what he went through the last time out on the Euros. Now, 3 years after collapsing on the pitch in the last Euros here, he went out there and helped Denmark. They ended up with a draw, but he scored the first goal of that match against Slovenia. It was on the field in 2020, and now back here, the 32-year-old midfielder scored in the 17th minute of this one out there. And, Dad, I can remember that was one of the scariest moments in sports that we'd seen. And obviously this last year in the NFL, we had everything that went on with DeMar Hamlin that felt eerily similar in terms of a team trying to grapple with this out on the field, seeing one of their brothers and teammates and a guy that was just upright with them all of a sudden put perilously in that way. For Eriksen, he had competed in other competition prior to this, but for it to come full circle, to be back in the same tournament, and we talked about, you know, in a very different way, the mental stuff that goes on with someone like Rory McIlroy on the green in a pivotal moment like that. But imagine the mental of going back out in the same tournament where you nearly lost your life years ago, and to be back there and then to go out and have the kind of success that he did is incredible.
Yeah, I mean what a moment to get back out there in that same atmosphere and what you had to be feeling. That's incredible. That goes higher than any weekend team that we do.
Yes,
I mean, that's
exactly.
That's just. But I'm glad you gave gave that a mention there. My second team, I'm going to go to the world of football in the UFL. Remember, again, the UFL merged the USFL and the XFL, and they had the two separate divisions of old USFL teams and old XFL, and then they met in the championship. We had the first championship game for that, and it was the Birmingham Stallions who beat the San Antonio Brahmas 25-0. These were the top two defenses in the league. And it played that way, as there was no score for a decent amount of this game. And then I think it was Birmingham then scored on like 3 straight possessions and broke this game open. Adrian Martinez, I remember him way back when he was that true freshman starting in Nebraska.
I felt like Adrian Martinez was still at Nebraska.
I know.
Now. That man was at Nebraska for 200 years. He was a Syracuse point guard.
He was the league MVP. He was this game's MVP as well. And it was also a couple of pretty good names that we know coaching. Skip Holtz for the champion Stallions, and Wade Phillips, my former D coordinator when I was in Philly, for the San Antonio Brahmas. So the first season under its belt seems like it was pretty successful. I know I tuned in and I watched some of it. Now we'll see how many of those players get a chance, decent amount are signing with teams as we'll go into training camp, see if any of them will make it now. But I don't have any numbers to back this up. I know I watched it. I know it was in St. Louis, I think, where they had record crowds. They were the ones pulling the big crowds. So I'm not sure of all the numbers, but I know I tuned in and I watched it and I found it entertaining.
I think, again, the continued most important thing for them is the fact that we're getting ready to see the kickoff they implemented in these leagues, which was before the XFL, but now in the UFL, their kickoff is going to be in the NFL this season. Yep. And for guys like our buddy Sam Shortstein and everyone else who's a part of that, I think continuing to prove that concept to the NFL, like, hey, we can be helpful to you guys, not just in player development, but in rule development and in all these ways that we might want to change the way game going forward. You did say, Dad, they were winning the first. This is the UFL, but before we had the XFL and the USFL. Right. This now going back to the USFL days, 3 straight championships. 3 straight. Have to start asking the question, are the Birmingham Stallions bad for the UFL?
And are they a dynasty?
Oh, they're definitely a dynasty.
Definitely a dynasty, right?
Repeat, it's usually 3 and 5 years, 3 and 6 years makes you a dynasty in most people's mind, regardless of sport. 3 in a row means you're officially a problem right now. And as we're getting ready to watch the Kansas City Chiefs try and do their best Birmingham Stallions impression, we will then get to ask the same question about them.
I agree. So congrats to them and Skip Holtz, but for the league, because I'm with you, for a league to have to endure, because they're going to lose money, especially early on. If you end up partnering, you're using rules that are implemented in the NFL, but if you can end up somehow partnering with them, that's what you're looking for, because you and I as former players are always looking for other places for players who don't make that 53-man roster right away, for them to keep playing, to try and hone their craft to make it. And that was what Dwayne Johnson's whole thought was, because he had the number 54, because he couldn't make that NFL roster, so he put it around the number 54, that kind of first man out, and that's what these guys are playing for. And it's a very cool thing.
All right, we'll wait to see what happens for them. But for the first team all weekend, this one genuinely stunned me, especially given the source. So this weekend, NBA TV was covering the Dallas Mavericks Boston Celtics game. And almost felt like a shock drop. Charles Barkley announced his retirement. He announced to everyone on NBA TV that next season would be his final in broadcasting. Take a listen to what Charles had to say.
I have made the decision myself. No matter what happens, next year is going to be my last year on television. And I just want to say thank you to my NBA family. You guys have been great to me. My heart is full with joy and gratitude. But I'm going to pass the baton at the end of next year. I hope the NBA stays with TNT. But for me personally, I wanted you guys to hear from me, because I'm not doing any more interviews. Don't y'all be calling me. Nobody calling me. I'm not talking about this again, but I want to tell my NBA and NBA TV and TNT family that I'm not going to another network.
So, Dad, after we had all speculated about what Charles Barkley would fetch on the open market or how these guys might look off on their own, Charles removes all doubt and says he has done and ends one of the most prolific broadcasting careers in the history of the medium.
Wait, you believe him?
Yeah.
You believe he's done? You believe that if someone throws a monster offer at him, that he's not going to do something?
Maybe a Godfather offer, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Charles Barkley has always been someone who's been pretty comfortable doing it and going his own way. He's already made a ton of money, especially after that pursuit from Live Golf. So
does he have to? No, he obviously doesn't. He could spend the rest of his days in the high limit blackjack tables, and be fine. But I don't know how much I believe it. I always like to believe it. Maybe he's done, but we'll see, because there will be calls. It's not like his phone is not going to ring.
I'm sure there's already been, and that's to me what was interesting about this was, had he already heard what was out there and decided, I would rather not have to figure out life again? Because this is essentially like going through a broadcast divorce and having to figure out how to date on the other side of it. And for Charles Barkley, maybe he just decided, I'm going to go somewhere else and do this, because his line had been, hey, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm looking for a job, and the tune changed pretty quickly all of a sudden.
I'll tell you what, if in fact he is done, we all lose.
Yeah,
right? Because he is.
There'll have to be a larger discussion on another day.
I have still said at ESPN in all the years there, people always ask me, who's your best guest? And I always say it's Barkley. And I mean, I'm sure he'd be that for a lot. So it would be a shame if he is retired. But if he wants to, man, more power to you. All right, my first team is a name you may not know unless you're really in the swimming world. Gretchen Walsh, who went to Virginia. She's been an NCAA champ last year and this year in different events, 50 free, 100 fly, and
broke
such.
A ton of records at the NCAA championships.
So, I mean, in the swimming world, she is known, especially in college swimming. But on the world level, the national level, the Olympic trials are going on right now, and which I am just glued to the TV, especially the swimming. I love watching that. I love listening to Rowdy Gaines, who does a great job as the analyst. But she, in a matter of 2 swims, Mike, in the semis and the 100 fly, she broke the world record. And in the finals, she got so close to breaking her record that in 2 swims, now this is outside the NCAAs, in 2 swims, she has the top 2 100 butterfly times ever in the world, not just NCAAs, in the world, in 2 swims. In back-to-back swims in the semis and then the finals. She's 6'2". You should see her arm reach, Mike, in the fly. It's a 6'4" arm length. It's unbelievable what she does. And she hasn't even gotten to the 100 free yet, or the 50 free, which she's been dominant in as well. And she's a first-time Olympian. I think that's a cool thing as well. So congrats to her starting out the swim trials and making her first Olympic team. Kudos and a tip of the cap. She's going to be on the
Olympic team with her sister, right?
I think so. Yes, I do believe so. I didn't go that far into it, and I should have, and I apologize. Way to make me look bad. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Appreciate that.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 of GoJo and Golic here on the DraftKings Network. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Claudia Bellafato. Plenty to get here in hour number 2. We'll take a look ahead at Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Where the hell Aaron Rodgers has actually been, since some of the people that decided to whisper about that may have spoken it loudly enough to where we found out. And spoiler alert, probably has to do with the drugs again.
I would say so.
Also, Megan Reyes is going to join us coming up in a little bit here on DraftKings Network. Good follow, a new show you should absolutely be checking out. We talked a little bit before about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, but women's sports having such a massive, you can't even call it a moment anymore. Women's sports have enjoyed such an upward trajectory for a while. And so Meg going to help people get their eyes trained on some of the best stories, the best characters around the world of women's sports here with us. But before we do any of that, I have no idea why. The funny thing that happens with my dad around the Olympics is this is such a part of life that my dad loves so much and didn't get to explore. My dad was a 2-sport athlete in college. He was a collegiate wrestler and a football player. And I've always maintained, when you listen to my dad talk about wrestling long enough, he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame as a distinguished American. And I contend if he could have had a choice and both sports would have offered him equal acclaim after the fact and opportunity, I think my dad would have chosen wrestling in his heart of heart. I don't know if that's true or not for you. It's always felt that way, like you loved wrestling as much or more as you love football.
Having a gold medal, if I was a good enough wrestler, then to win a gold in the Olympics would probably have meant more than a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, I firmly, and I can understand that for a ton of different reasons. And so when the Olympics starts to pop up, my dad's attention for the rest of sports starts to wander a little bit, because this is an area that for him was so aspirational for so long. And so now it's left you muttering before we're coming back saying you have something about tattoos and the Olympics that you want to talk about.
And actually, and I've said this before, your Uncle Bob, my brother, I think could have been an Olympic wrestler. Definitely. He wrestled at Notre Dame as well. He was a much better wrestler than I was, but this was before you couldn't do another sport if you were a professional sport. And he went in the NFL draft in '79, and he had to choose to do that. And luckily he did, because in 1980 we boycotted anyway. So that would have
good choice, Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Good choice.
First, real quick, Gretchen Walsh, I mentioned her sister Alex. You're right. She was in the 21 Olympics at Tokyo, won a silver in the 200 medley relay. So yes, they are the first actually. They became the first NCAA athletes and set of siblings to ever launch an apparel line with a major retail after the passage of NIL. So they did it in September of 22.
Oh, there you go. I saw the cool moment they had when Gretchen broke the record. The two of them had the big, long hug there.
It's very cool.
Very cool moment.
So very cool thing. But I would say, so again, in our household of 5, you have tattoos, your brother Jake has tattoos, your sister Sydney has tattoos, and your mother has tattoos. Okay, now Sydney and your mom are a little, the wrist and the feet type of thing.
Yeah,
But tattoos. You and Jake have a little more pronounced tattoos. I have no tattoos, and I never had any intention of getting tattoos. The only tattoo I would ever have gotten, and I see it on these men and women in the trials who have made previous teams, is to get the rings. To get the Olympic rings tattooed somewhere on your body. For the guys, you see it a lot of times, like on the rib cage or on the arm. That would have been a tattoo I would have gotten immediately had I. And I don't mean having to win anything, just to make the Olympic team.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's the cool part with the Olympics is making the team is already. We talk about in March Madness for basketball, making the Final Four is like you hang banners for that for a reason, because in that sport it's so difficult to even do that. For a lot of teams, especially the mid-majors, even making the tournament is something that you hang a banner for. Making the Olympic team is such a 1% of the 1% thing. That once you're on there and you're actually on Team USA, getting to walk out in the opening ceremony wearing some Ralph Lauren Polo Bear inspired version of red, white, and blue, you absolutely got to get that.
I'd have ran to a tattoo. I'd have run to a tattoo shop to get that. I think it would be the greatest tattoo. I mean, I really do. And I'm sure there are people like, you can get the tattoo anyway. No. Oh,
God, a stolen valor Olympic ring tattoo?
It's like when we used to do shows, for Memorial Day or something, or go on and receive shirts or something from the military. I'm not putting those on. I'm not putting those on. I mean, they will stay in my closet. I'm not getting. They're right there, and I see them every now and then in my closet. I'm not putting them on.
I have,
and I mean that respectfully, obviously.
Oh no, it's 100%, because I've been fortunate calling games for some of the service academies. I have Air Force issued here from them. I got this awesome Army hoodie from the only Army Navy game I ever went to was back in like 2017 or 2018, and I got one of the sweatshirts that Army had for the game, and they always had the best uniforms for that one, and it's great. but I only wear it around the house because I'm so scared of being out in public and someone thanking me for my service and having to have that awful moment where I correct them. I walked out of the house to go down to the beach. I was walking down to go like throw something away down in the trash by the water, and I forgot that I had it on, and I like legitimately almost, and I didn't want to turn it inside out because that felt disrespectful.
Right,
so I just scurried home
Isn't it amazing?
Because the thought of anyone seeing me out in public and assuming that I had gone and served in that way or been at one of the academies when I had it was terrifying. So, doing that with the rings, imagine the shame of having to explain, no, I just really like the Olympics.
I couldn't imagine anybody that wasn't in the Olympics getting the Olympic rings. I mean, that would just be
just in general, the idea of a tattoo like that tied to accomplishment. Because when we were getting ready to play in the national championship in college when I was there, I had a full plan for.
I was going to say, if you guys won, you would have had a monster plan, right, for a tattoo?
It would have been the coach's trophy, the crystal ball, which has now unfortunately become lesser known. It's still awarded to the national championship in college football, just not on the site. The college football playoff national championship trophy, the big one that looks like a Dr. Pepper can, is now awarded to everyone. But they still give out the crystal ball, which is one of the best trophies in sports.
Yep.
And I was just going to get a big ass version of the crystal ball inside my arm, and I got reminded of that the other day because when I was in Philadelphia watching the Notre Dame men play in their lacrosse championship, and after they won, a bunch of the guys came out in the parking lot, and they were the back-to-back defending champions, and they took a picture with the tattoo artist, and I wish I could remember. I know he was a college lacrosse player. I forget if it was at Notre Dame. But the same guy, they took a picture, tattooed like 8 guys on the team, and they were all showing they all had different versions of the championship tattoo. Like Pat Cavanaugh had the leprechaun with a crown on.
Right, I saw that. It's very cool.
And a bunch of these different ones, and it just reminded me like, oh man, that's one of the cool spoils of war is to get to go and do something like that.
Do you think about that, though, for the next? Because now they went back-to-back. What do you do? I mean, do you just put it under the original one that says ×2? I mean, do you make a whole new tattoo for it? Because you have to acknowledge the fact you won 2 now in a row, right?
It'll be an interesting reward for the guys that had foresight because everyone knew they'd be good again.
Yeah.
People weren't sure if they'd be able to go out and be even more dominant than they were the prior season. So if you're an athlete and you're on a really good team, like if you're a member of the Kansas City Chiefs right now, we watched them get their ring ceremony the other night, and I thought, man, imagine being one of the losers on that team who only had 1 ring, as opposed to some of the guys that had 2 and 3s and a fistful there. Do you have to have some tattoo foresight if you're on a good team?
How great would it be if one of those lacrosse players, when they were getting tattooed last year, told the tattoo artist, hey, let's save this space next to it in case we do it again. That would be something.
That'd be
impressive.
One of the ones you make sure you tell the writer when they're doing a story about you. Like, oh, by the way,
I left room for the second one.
I knew that this was coming here. Claudia, let's see if any of the Boston Celtics left room for the tattoo here in the championship as we get ready for Game 5 of this series and start to look ahead to this one.
I was going to say, Senior, I don't have any tattoos either, so I don't know, man. Maybe my first one will be Celtics, 18th banner. It won't be.
There you go.
But it's a good thought. This leads us to Cash It or Trash It, presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned to hear everything DraftKings has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. Game 5 tonight, back in Boston. Since 2005, teams that lost in the NBA Finals by 30 or more points went 4-0 straight up and 4-0 ATS in the next game. In this spot, the Celtics are 6.5-point favorites. Joe Mazzulla was asked about what a win tonight would mean for his legacy. Here's what he had to say.
You have an opportunity to be part of a very special fraternity of coaches here in Boston that have won titles. Talking about legends like Red Auerbach and Bill Russell and Tommy Heinsohn and Casey Jones. What would it mean for you personally? I know you always talk about, it's all about the players. But you're a young coach. What would it mean for you personally, Coach, to be a part of that?
That'll never happen if you don't run back on defense, rebound, execute, and get to your spacing. It's the most important thing.
Okay.
Seriously?
Yeah. So, like
That's his answer?
That's his answer. He's a basketball guy. It's all about ball, man.
All the other guys won titles there.
I was going to say, Joe Mazzulla just looks, and you could see it loading in his brain during that whole, which, by the way, the question was too long, but you could see it loading the whole way in his brain. What's the weirdest thing I could say to take the air out of the room after this question got asked? That's his goal, I'm convinced, for every question. And if you view Joe Maz press conferences through that lens, it gets fun now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
What a weird take.
Never surprising when we get sound from him. Either way, I think we can all agree it'll be great for his legacy, great for the Celtics' legacy, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all of that. So with that said, Senior, are we cashing or trashing Celtics to close this out and cover 6.5?
I am. I mean, especially this is one of those games, if it's starting to get away from Dallas, it's going to be a blowout. I hope it's a competitive game. I really do. But then there are the coincidental numbers that match up. The last time the Celtics won a title was 2008, and they clinched it on June 17th. Today is June 17th. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. How do you not go with them on that alone? Yes, I am cashing that one, Claudia, that they end this, that they beat the line as well. So I would go ahead and give the points and let Boston celebrate their 18th pennant that they will hang in the banner.
Yeah.
Hang in the rafters.
I would agree on that. I think we talked about it before. One of the good stats I saw on ESPN.com, the Boston Celtics have been the most prolific three-point shooting team in the NBA over the course of the entire season. Early in the finals, we talked about the disparity, plus 49 in terms of three-point attempts through the first 3 games. Just staggering.
Amazing.
But they had also shot better than 50% on their open three-point looks. That's something you've talked about, their ball movement on the perimeter.
Incredible.
And the open shots that's net them. They were 3 of 9 on open looks before halftime in this last game as they really struggled. Part of that, you certainly give credit to the Dallas defense. Luka Doncic and everyone else gave much greater effort after they were prompted to early on. But you would imagine, one, Joe Mazzulla, the supercomputer hell-bent on sucking the joy out of every press conference, is also very good at the strategic manipulation of the court, the stuff they actually need for them to win a championship. I'm sure he's going to have some wrinkle ready, and I just don't think that defensive intensity can be maintained against a Boston team that we've seen, right? It was game 2 in the first couple of series during the postseason where Boston would have an off shooting night, the other team would play their best game, and we would wonder about this team going forward. Since then, it's been a lot fewer and further between for a team that's only lost twice during the postseason. They generally tend to shoot very well. It is built into the model of what they do. And so I'd have to imagine they're back above 50% on open threes, and that goes a long way in sealing the deal.
I would be very, very stunned if they dropped this game and then had to go back to Dallas again. I mean, I really, really would. What I wouldn't be stunned is Joe Mazzulla, if they win tonight and win the championship, and in his presser, that his immediate response, because he's in Boston, isn't Bill Belichickian that says, well, do you know how far behind we are on everybody else? As the season is over, they're preparing for next year, and we're behind the 8 ball. We got to get going on next year. I can already envision that out of him.
I want to see Joe Mazzulla on First Take more than anything in the world. I just want to see what it's like, because I can't imagine 2 more opposite human beings than him and Stephen A. Smith. I just want to see him interact in the same room and try and embrace debate. And he's going to have time to do that and the room to do that, because like you said, I do think they're going to have the chance. The other big interesting factor on this would be probably Kyrie Irving going back home to Boston again, because the first couple games of the series, Dad, I think we had talked so much about the Kyrie renaissance throughout the playoffs that we were a bit shocked at, hey, the jawing back and forth with the Boston crowd. It really seemed to affect him a little bit. And Kyrie Irving talked about that the other day in the lead up to Game 5 here. Let's take a listen to that quick.
I think that's what I struggled with initially, was figuring out how I'm going to be a great player here while winning championships, while also leading a team and selflessly joining the Celtics organization or the cult that they have here. And that's what they expect you to do as a player. They expect you to seamlessly buy into the Celtics pride, buy into everything Celtics, and if you don't, then you'll be outed. And I'm one of the people that's on the outs. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Probably calling it the Celtic cult.
Yeah.
Not the best
Maybe
idea.
not the road you want to go down.
Maybe, you know what, this is a little bit of the petty coming back out here, because that doesn't sound like all the growth and stuff that we talked about necessarily.
He's had a couple of lines that have gone back the other way.
He has, and that's what happens when you also are dealing with the pressure defensively that he has in here. Kyrie Irving, in the 2 games in Boston, averaged just 14 points on 35% shooting. Credit to Derek White, Drew Holiday, everybody else, the litany of defenders in the backcourt that they can throw at them there. But and I guess that's what I mean. Like, all of this is clearly very personal for Kyrie in a way that he probably isn't even fully letting on, despite a guy who's talked about the road since leaving LeBron, how much he's learned, how much we've seen him learn publicly in the way he's presented himself. But this series is so close to home for him.
Oh, without a doubt. And, he hasn't played well, obviously, in Boston. You'd like to see him be able, obviously, the Mavs need him to do that. So, we'll see. Again, I don't have a lot of hope for that team. Kyrie won't have anything to say about Boston after the finals are over because we'll move on to next year and it'll be all done and they'll hang their 18th banner and we move on. I'd be stunned if it didn't happen at home. And I'd be stunned if that's not what some of the Celtics thought as they were getting blown out. We'll go win it at home, in front of our home crowd. And Dallas has to travel for yet another game to try and keep this thing competitive. I just have a tough time. Now, I've been wrong almost every time this thing got away from the Mavs, and were they going to get it back in or not? And I still thought they would, and so we'll see if I'm wrong again tonight. But I just think Boston ends it.
Yeah, and probably without Kristaps. He's on the court.
Yeah.
I just saw a reported shoot-around the other day. Not doing a lot of moving, but fully dressed here. They've been without him for the last couple of games. And, Dad, I still don't think ultimately, and I think that might be the biggest testament to this Celtics team when we do the postmortem on them, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about where this Boston Celtics team actually ranks in terms of modern championship teams. We know everything about the road, but they took a player in Kristaps Porzingis that was known NBA commodity, that went through his own pains, including his time in Dallas before coming out. I say this without a shred of irony, washed and different on the other side of playing for the Washington Wizards, who are objectively bad franchise right now. But Kristaps sort of found himself again there and came back in his final form in Boston. They've done the playoffs largely without him, and they'll have won this championship if they go on and cap that off in Game 5, largely without Kristaps Porzingis. And it's just, again, Brad Stevens, executive of the year, the depth that they've built up on this roster.
It was still amazing watching him come out in Game 1 and how he dominated, going, oh, my God.
He's nuts.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's going to play tonight. I'd imagine if he doesn't and they lose and go back, if he's close, he would probably suit up in Game 6. Again, if he's close, it's not something where you want to have to spend a whole offseason rehabbing.
No, but if they gave up another game, especially at home, and now all of a sudden you're going back to Dallas, that's when I think, because at this point, Claudia's right. I don't think any of this registered on the Richter scale for the Boston players going back home. You took your eyes off the prize for a little bit. It's really hard to manufacture that urgency against a team whose back is actually against the wall, who's facing the end of their season, embarrassed on their home court if Dallas were to have lost Game 4 like that. But I do think now, if you're Boston going back home, hey, you got everything in your corner here. Everything's familiar again, and all of a sudden, you've got the opportunity to hang this banner for real for a bunch of guys that have been the urgency on their side now. Maybe you draw enough of your own blood to come back and finish the job the right way.
Yeah. So I think they could do it without Porzingis. Like I said, it's not. But who knows? I mean, we weren't sure he was coming back in Game 1. He came back and was dominant. So we have no idea. But boy, it sure sounds like he could use a nice offseason arrest.
I guess that's the other thing too, right? Is all of a sudden now, if you're able to do this, because God, the thing we all had in the back of our head was Kevin Durant. Every time a 7-footer's got a calf injury, from now until the end of time in the postseason and modern discourse, we're all going to think of Kevin Durant coming back early and how that's, changed his career forever. We talked about Kevin Durant, LeBron, Steph Curry, all these guys now to a point where their presence alone isn't worth a run to the championship. Part of that for Kevin has been the physical deterioration of his body. And that happened in this moment. For Kristaps now to get the chance to, hey, even as bad as this rare injury was, get that whole offseason to heal up, now you start to wonder, all right, for this Boston Celtics team with that same level of depth, hey, are we talking about someone with the capability of going back-to-back the way the Denver Nuggets spit the bid on?
Well, yeah, how would they not be favored to do that? I mean, without question. The medical staff will tell Kristaps, go stay off your feet for a month, before you come back. So, so, again, we both think it's going to get closed out tonight. I'm going to say right now I'm happy we're still on air. 2 of my 3 dogs have come into the studio here, and they are down by our feet where all the cords are, and one of them is Ted the Bulldog, who is a linebacker. Ted goes straight ahead into things and doesn't care what he hits. So us still being on the air is somewhat shocking to me.
It's like when you feel the fishing line go taut. And normally that's a good thing because that means you got something on the hook. In this case, I felt the microphone go taut and immediately started to brace for everything around me to go down in a flaming blaze of glory. Speaking of going down in a flaming blaze of glory, coming up next, let's talk about the New York Jets and their football quarterback, heading into the remainder of the offseason before training camp. Next time, GoJo Golic.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. The game of where is Aaron Rodgers in the world continues. Everybody's making assumptions. Some people saying he's doing another retreat in the darkness of the woods. We have some reports. Albert Breer gave a lengthy response to Rodgers' whereabouts, saying he's not in the New York area because of a decision that will cost him more than $100,000 in fines. And he said on the Rich Eisen show, you guys can open your mind, so to speak, as he's been known to open his mind sometimes into all of the possibilities. Colin Cowherd, Diana Rossini both confirmed that Rodgers was on an overseas vacation. So at first we were told it's an event that he didn't want to miss by Robert Saleh, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Now we're getting word that it's an overseas vacation. Rossini added that the quarterback didn't want to reschedule the vacation around the Jets' practices. Okay. I would still like to hear something from Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how he still hasn't come out to give us a little bit of anything, but GoJo, how surprised are you to hear these latest reports?
Not surprised at all. All of this is so incredibly on brand, and I think that's why I've achieved my own sort of state of zen about all of this, Dad, because none of it really does matter. Nope. It's annoying. It certainly is, and what Aaron's likely going to do with this when he gets a chance in front of the microphone is also going to be very annoying because it's going to be holier than thou and all of that. But I generally tend to skew with Sauce Gardner, his teammate in the New York Jets, who tweeted out last week, are y'all really making a big deal because a 15-plus year Hall of Fame quarterback missed 2 days of practice after being with the team all throughout phases 1, 2, and 3 of OTAs? I don't know what GGs actually means. I'm not young enough to understand that slang, but I do tend to agree with Sauce Gardner. And if that's also the prevailing sentiment of the team, Dad, where it's like, oh, yeah, they understand this time of year only matters so much, and that Aaron's been around. And Aaron is also, since he's come to New York, in the other side of things, he's made an investment in the guys on the team. It was a big public show last year where he's going to games with these guys and he's going to Broadway shows with these guys and he's enjoying all the things and parts of culture that maybe he can get to do as much with the Green Bay Packers. So I can only get so much bandwidth.
Yeah, let's separate the personality of Aaron Rodgers, which some people enjoy and other people don't. And thank you, Aaron, for doing this, because the NHL and the NBA finals are going to be over and we're going to be lost until camp starts. Luckily, I have the Olympic trials. We need some content, and he's going to provide it when he comes back and has to answer where he was. This, I said it before, I'll say it again. The players said the only thing the players may be a little ticked at is the fact that they don't have the power to do that if they wanted to, right? But
like most guys understand.
Oh, no, they do. That's what I'm saying. They understand it, and they're like, man, I wish I was at that point in my career where I could just say, hey, I don't want to be there, not even worry about it, and have nobody care. I actually heard people saying, well, yeah, it doesn't matter now, but if they start 1-3, people are going to look back on this. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Oh, I mean, people, listen to this clear. Not like it has any impact, but people are going to bring it up.
Oh,
like,
they absolutely
I guess that's the
are.
point, is in the New York media market, this absolutely becomes chum in the water if things go badly, as does the whole other Aaron Rodgers.
Completely agree. And will it be wrong? Yes. Because this will have nothing to do if they start off 1-3 that he wasn't at minicamp. So let's just stop that narrative. A lot of this is because of the personality of Aaron Rodgers. This happens before. It'll happen again with other players. Everybody's saying he's going to eat a $100,000 fine. So what? If he doesn't care, why should anybody else care about the money he's losing? Yeah, I completely, like I said, with the players, they don't care, because would it be a little different to the players if he hasn't showed up for any of the OTAs or hasn't had that investment, like you say? Because I agree with you. There might be a little bit of a different thought from the player side of it. That's all I really care about, is the player side. But he's been there. He's been working out. He's been working. He rehabbed. He's ready to go. So this means zero to me, missing these couple of days.
Now, I will say, missing those couple of days, especially the way this team is structured, and Tyrod Taylor being there, the backup quarterback situation changes a lot.
Yes, it does.
What we did see last year was the drop-off when Aaron wasn't there, and that's the one thing for OTAs, for all the other dependent position players, especially wide receiver, is you're not really getting work that matters when Aaron's not there.
Right.
If you're one of those receivers, like, there's work that helps, but in terms of the reps that are going to go and bank into the season, a lot less of it, especially in a team structure. So 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 doesn't matter as much, because the offense is Aaron.
Right.
That got established last year. Nathaniel Hackett is not an NFL offensive coordinator that right now feels capable of lifting a group of lesser parts, but he can coach Aaron Rodgers. And so without that, yeah, it takes a hit for everybody else, but you're right about the rest of that.
So the fun is going to be, where was he, right? I mean, that's the only part of the story I care about, because it's content for the show. That every sport show in America needs content at this point right now, until training camp starts. Like I said, thank God we had the Olympics to help get us through it. But that, to me, is the only part of this I find interesting, is hearing Aaron talk on where he was and his reasoning for missing camp.
Usually every time Aaron starts to talk, something bad happens.
Oh, I know. So yes.
I'm sort of dreading whenever that's going to come back around, because we know we've done this before.
Yeah.
All of this is like another not sequel, but another remake in Hollywood, where we're already lacking for new and original ideas.
Right.
We're dealing with another remake right now. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But Dad, speaking of the things that'll keep us warm during the long summer, I can hear Claudia and a host of others going, by the way, there's baseball going on right now. And the one baseball team that we all know how to talk about as a people, Claudia, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Los Angeles Dodgers had a bad thing happen to them. So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, injury bug is hitting them hard. And MVP, I think Mookie was going to run away with it. I said that before the season even started. He's been scorching hot. But unfortunately, he's going to be out. The timeline we are not sure of, but we know for sure that he faced a fracture bone in his left wrist, hit by a pitch, almost 98 miles per hour. Not fun against the Royals on Sunday. It's not requiring surgery, so that's the good part of it. The silver lining, doesn't need surgery. The bad part is he is going to be out for a period of time that is not specific. He was plus 125 to win NL MVP on Saturday, and now he's plus 2,000. So that just goes to show you how this market is expecting him to be out, how long, I should say, they're expecting him to be out. Awful news for the Dodgers. They are still the favorites. Ohtani is the favorite at 2-1, so it just goes to his teammate. That's how good this team is and how deep they are. The fact that the odds are saying, yeah, he might not be back, but they're still probably going to win it, which I can't really necessarily disagree with. But this is the second injury because Yamamoto is also placed on the 15-day IL, strained rotator cuff. That was before Sunday. He had tightness there. So without two of the better players in baseball right now, nobody wants to see Mookie Betts out, though. He was the player that everybody wanted to play with, right? When they did that MLB voting.
Yes.
So, and also just a great player.
And all that being said, I'm more concerned about Yamamoto's injury. He's 6-2 with a 2.92 ERA, and that's a rotator cuff on a pitcher. So Mookie Betts' hand is going to heal. It's a fracture. It doesn't need surgery. So you just sit and it's going to heal. Yamamoto's rotator cuff will get rehab and feel better, but there's the possibility of it happening again and then leading to other things as well. So in all honesty, the long term of this season, I would be more worried about that because that hand will heal. You put a pad on it, as much you can and protect it. But it does bring back that old question again. Would you rather get hit by a 100-mile-an-hour fastball or a 100-mile-an-hour puck?
Is that an age-old question?
It used to be asked. I don't even think it's a question.
I was going to say, outside of accounting for the sport's different levels of padding, like if you're saying within the body.
No. I'm saying hitting like.
You're saying like Happy Gilmore in the batting cages.
Yeah. Yes. Like getting hit by it. Yes. Hit by a ball or a puck on your flesh, not on a pad.
I don't think that's even close. Claudia, am I missing something here?
A puck can put you out. Like you're out.
I'm telling you.
For the count.
Could kill you.
Oh yeah, listen, we've seen horrible things happen when players get hit in the head with a baseball. They're both bad. But the most amazing thing to me at times is those guys in hockey when the guy's going to do a long slap shot and the dude drops in front of him to try and use his body. Because you don't know where that's going to hit you on the body because not every part of your body is padded up. And those guys are freaking nuts. So, I would rather get hit by the baseball than the puck, but it does still hurt. So for Mookie Betts, back to that, bad for the Dodgers, but that's going to heal. He'll be back. The Yamamoto rotator cuff worries me more.
I just laugh because, like Claudia pointed out, all right, they lost one MVP, and then they just slide Shohei Ohtani up to the MVP.
Hit 2 home runs.
And keep it going here. It's, again, the insane level of depth for that team. We can talk about that the same way for the Yankees over in the AL right now, and Judge and Soto have been incredible to start the season so far. Money, all this money in sports completely ruining everything, right? College athletics? Oh, wait. Meg Reyes is going to join us next here on GoJo and Golic from Good Follow. Stay with us. right, excited to bring in our next guest, Megan Reyes, who is the host of Good Follow here on the DraftKings Network, part of Meadowlark Media. Been doing a great job as a content creator, just in general around women's sports, the world of soccer. And Megan, I guess the proper place to start would be asking you, because we've been mutual follows on Twitter for a little bit now. I don't know if you follow my dad or not, but do we qualify as a good follow here?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, you absolutely qualify as a good follow. Whether or not I'm contractually obligated to say that is left to be determined, but you are absolutely good follows.
There we go.
Which,
Listen,
by the way,
we are
I'm not contractually
above.
obligated.
No, yes. Let the record show she's not contractually obligated, but maybe, just maybe. We'll take it either way. We'll take the compliment either way. And we're excited to have you here with that in mind, because at Good Follow, you guys are trying to take us to the good place when it comes to the coverage of women's sports, amplifying a lot of the voices around it, and giving people a place where they can come and enjoy that conversation. And it seems like in the national media, it has been anything but that so far in the WNBA season that we've had going on right now, Megan. So from your vantage point, as someone that's been trying to do this the right way, how does it feel like we got to this point already with someone like Caitlin Clark at the helm, to the level of dialogue and discourse that we've had that's become so polarizing?
Yeah, I feel like it snowballed and happened so quickly. And like we were joking prior to filming that you looked up and all of a sudden it's all you see on social media. And I think really my thoughts around it are, what a lot of people, in my opinion, are lacking is the ability for multiple things to be true. And in my opinion, Caitlin Clark is an elite player who is helping grow the women's game tremendously. And at the same time, there are so many other incredible women who came before her who are either retired or currently playing in the league that have also done their part to grow the game and who are also electrifying to watch. And somehow a lot of people seem to be living in this black and white where it's either she's helping grow the game, or do you want us to not talk about her at all? And sometimes there's layers and nuance to things. And I live in there's a little bit of a gray world. That's how I see things. And I really think that there is a world where all of these things can exist and be true.
Will we eventually, the old saying, any publicity is good publicity. Will this eventually lead to all good for the WNBA, if that's possible?
I think it's really important that people are talking about the WNBA, because now people want to tune in and now people want to watch. And at the same time, some of the very heavier discourse, I guess I'll say, it's tiring. Like, are you all not tired? I'm tired. I was telling my partner the other day, I told him, sometimes when I get on Twitter and I just see people arguing over Caitlin Clark and things related to the W, like, let's just watch some basketball. I just want to watch some good basketball.
That part does get lost in it, because does it feel to you like every time a woman, especially in a high profile position like this, steps out, it's got to be some referendum on all of womanhood or all of the history and future of the sport as opposed to just the game itself?
Yeah, and I also think too, there's a lot of unfair pressure on Caitlin specifically to be this rookie first round draft pick, fresh out of college. Like, what were any of us doing at 20 something years old, expected to be perfect, expected to say the right things and do the right things and grow the game and have this tremendous weight put on her? I think is incredibly unfair when her natural talents are to play basketball. Let her hoop. When it comes to marketing, when it comes to whether or not the game is getting viewership, that's not on Caitlin.
She has been phenomenal in front of on the court. Certainly has had some great moments, but in front of the microphone, she's handled everything incredibly well. The latest, Meg, has been the Olympic team. There's the meritocracy of players you feel deserve to be on the team. There's the aspect of, boy, if she's on the team, she brings a lot of fans and maybe more eyeballs as well. So where do you fall on Caitlin being left off the team?
I think it's a hard decision. Well, I think is a hard decision when you have that much talent on the roster. When you look at the final Team USA roster, that team is stacked. And if you think they're not bringing home another gold after Paris, like, you're not watching women's basketball. At the same time, I think the Team USA selection committee chair put it perfectly, where selecting the roster didn't come down to whether or not the Olympic women's basketball teams were going to get enough viewership. It came down to selecting the right team to win gold. And we aren't in those positions of coaching power where there's a reason that she wasn't on the roster, and it's perhaps because they didn't feel that it was the best fit to win gold. And when you look at the roster, I couldn't tell you who I would leave off of there. That is a stacked team. Like, that is 2016 Supervillains Warriors team.
It is. It's a dominant team that, as you mentioned, has been part of a dominant program for women's basketball at the Olympic and international stage. I want to go to another team that we're used to seeing dominate in the Olympic and international stage, and that's the U.S. women's national team, who for so long you could set your watch to them going out at the Olympics or the World Cup, and everything was going to go well. Obviously, this last time out at the World Cup, injuries became a factor, and a lot of things that sent them down a path that we weren't necessarily used to. So as you look at the U.S. women's national team now for soccer as they get ready to head to Paris here, what excites you about this group?
I think it's similar to the Team USA women's basketball team. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of young talent. We're going to see a different team than we saw in 2020. We're going to see a different team than a lot of long existing U.S. women's national team fans are used to. It's a turning of the tides, as everyone's saying. And I read a really good article yesterday from Jeff Kassouf, who writes for The Equalizer. He wrote this really great article yesterday for ESPN about his predictions for the Olympic roster for the U.S. women's national team. And it's a similar thing, like, who do you leave off? And there might be a world where Alex Morgan doesn't make the roster, and that will be a major headline. If that happens, she's a legend for a reason. And at the same time, when you look specifically at forward talent for the women's national team, there are so many good players, Alex included, that someone's going to get left off, and it's going to hurt because they all equally deserve to be there. But I think similarly, especially now with Emma Hayes as head coach, what they're going to put together, I believe, is a gold medal winning team.
Well, I mean, listen, she is so recognizable, and if she is left off the team, if the selection committee thinks someone's better, that's good for Team USA, right? It means, you have a very talented woman on the team, and I'm sure it'll probably be a younger woman as well, and how you just have to keep rebuilding. So we'll see when that roster comes out as well. How about, the name of your show is Good Follow. Who are some of the good follows that you follow?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot with my own question that I ask people. This is so unfair. Oh my goodness. Well,
just follow up.
This is something I've said multiple times on Good Follow. I am a huge Trinity Rodman fan, so Trinity Rodman is definitely on my Good Follow list. Incredible TikToks. I think are we asking in the context of women's sports in general?
Sure.
Yeah, Alona Mayer on USA Rugby, great on TikTok. Really, I'm a really big fan of her because she is all about body positivity. A lot of her TikToks, she takes very hateful comments that a woman athlete is going to receive, especially people that think like, oh, you're taller, you're bigger. She plays rugby. And she turns them into body positivity TikTok. So Alona is at the top of my list. And then for a third, I would round it out, if we're going to add from a different sport, someone from the Aces. I'm always very prone to someone from the Aces.
I was going to say, I think the Aces
I can't even
in general,
pick one. Like,
their
I'm just,
presence.
it's like a dot, right? Because I'm like, how do you pick just one of them?
Exactly. Their team account's done a phenomenal job with all the love for Kate Martin on that team, and how much the vets have loved her up in the middle of this narrative about how the vets and the rookies have been constantly at odds going into this season, that thankfully they've helped throw some cold water on with the work that they've done on that account.
I love the tunnel videos that the Aces do where they have the team dancing before they walk out. So the one where they put Kate on the spot, and then the video of her missing the team bus, like, that is the type of content we want to be seeing between rookies and vets. So yeah, I agree with you. The Aces as a whole are a great follow.
Everybody check out Good Follow with Megan Reyes doing a phenomenal job here at the DraftKings Network. Megan, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon, all right?
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
All right, guys, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you into the rest of the day. As always, download, subscribe, rate, and review us. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out here live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. If you miss us there, you can catch the best of GoJo and Golic noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you hear VSiN on the radio. And if you got to miss that for whatever reason, or our great guest, thank you to Megan Reyes from Good Follow here on the DraftKings Network for joining us to talk a little bit of women's sports. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts or right here on YouTube as soon as we get done. And guys, why don't we start off with this? We've talked a lot about video games on this show as of late. We know the EA football video game getting ready to come out this summer. Obviously, Madden's getting ready to go here. And LeBron James co-star Anthony Davis on the Los Angeles Lakers said that LeBron James beat a top 200 player in Madden, talked about the sheer tonnage of Madden that this grown adult man plays. Take a listen to Anthony Davis describing this.
I used to play Madden like a lot. Like all
you were
the
better
time.
than Braun. Like in one-on-one Madden.
Yeah.
Cooking him.
That's all he did. And it made him to the point where he's like, I'm locking back in. And when I say he locked back in, from that time in the bubble to right now, I think he's maybe top 1,000 in the world now.
No way.
Like I know during the late in the season he told us he beat the 164th best player in the world, I think.
Yeah. That's
if
funny.
I'm not mistaken. But he'll play 15 games a day, 20
Oh. Bro, what?
So listen, he's not the first or the last we've heard that just plays hours and hours of video games. And I used to say, how in the hell can you do that? But I really can't say a whole lot. Because and I do it mostly when your mother's around, so I'm not ignoring her. Yeah. So it's like if she has to go out somewhere, I'll get some in. But if she's gone, like she was back in Arizona for like 2.5 days, I'll sit there and watch Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever. I'll watch it for a few hours. Get up, go take the dogs out, run around with them a little bit, and then I'll watch. So I can't sit here and go, my God, you can't find something better to do than play video games when I'm sitting there watching. Right now I'm watching The Boys just came back out, or Patriot, or whatever I'm watching now.
Yeah, House of the Dragon started last night again, too.
And I can sit there and watch that for a few hours, so I can't really say anything anymore.
I can't even say anything because as someone who bought a PlayStation when The Last of Us came out and has been ripping off video games since then, you have to pull yourself away physically. I guess the difference to me is, Claudia, there's only so much else that goes on in my day outside of the show.
Right.
Football season's different. Like I can't touch the console during football season because I'm getting ready for games. The workload increases then. But for LeBron James, he is parent to multiple kids. Mm-hmm. During the NBA season, he has been still, despite his age, one of the best basketball players in the league. And so I guess that's the thing. We shouldn't be surprised, though, Claudia, because how LeBron does anything is how he does everything. And he appears to do everything with the intent of being the greatest to ever do it.
Well, that's the one part I do understand. Like, if he felt like it was a challenge, he was up for the challenge, he wanted to be better. Right. I understand that. It sounds to me like he needs a power washer. I think he needs to put his fandom and his superstarness aside and go power wash your house, LeBron. Go take your kids to the park. I think they're all old now, but whatever it is, I just feel like he needs to, like, that too many video games. Is that good? I feel like it's not.
That's the part I wonder about, because and that's to each his own. Because like I said, I try not to do it when your mom's around. I've no. Listen, let me just say this. That's between him and Savannah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Not saying a word, not saying nothing.
Nope.
That's between him and the person who runs the house, Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah. So, because his kids are teenagers at this point. They probably even, like, we all look at LeBron and we're like, oh, wow, this cool athlete. He's their dad as a teenager. They don't want to hang out with him.
Yeah, you guys as teenagers wanted nothing to do with me.
No teenager in the history of teenagers has ever wanted to hang out with parents.
Still
my parents were fun. I hung out with my parents.
Still hurts? I'll go back to your teenage years, which is, 3 years ago? And see.
I'm about to be 28. I'm old, please.
Oh, God, stop it. But yeah, so like I said, do your thing. As long as everybody's cool with it.
And the rest of that stuff, he's got money for that stuff. Like, he didn't power washed anything.
That's why I'm joking. That's why I'm saying, of course he has time. He has a cook. He has a cleaner. He has everything you need. So whatever. The man.
Satisfaction of power washing something.
You know who's probably doing that right now is Wemby. Did you see that picture of Wemby from last week with him in Spurs issue gear shopping at Walmart for groceries? Like, come on, that's some college freshman stuff where you wear the issue gear around campus.
He should be in college right now.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but he's also 7'4". Like,
I know.
Everyone knows where Wemby is.
People ripping him for wearing issue gear. He should be in college, and that's what you do in college. You wear issue gear.
I do wonder if Gen Z kids do that, though. I have so many questions about that generation. They confuse me greatly. Speaking of older generations, Claudia, let's get to that. Dirk Nowitzki was out, taking in the sights and sounds of the Dallas Mavericks home games during the NBA playoffs, and then had one thing go kind of awry.
Yeah, I don't know where this idea came from. A fan apparently named Chris wanted to do a dunk over Dirk, who is 7 feet tall, 14-time NBA All-Star. If you're not watching on DraftKings Network or YouTube, I'm going to describe this to you. Basically, he's giving him a piggyback ride. This man doesn't even really have ups. Like, what was he trying to do, guys?
He hit Dirk in the middle of the back. It like you can't even go, oh man, so close. He almost whiplashed Dirk. That was so not close.
And this was
to think that you could do that.
This was an event outside the American Airlines Center in Dallas. You would think they sort of planned this out, but it looked so far from planned. So I don't know.
Or maybe dude was just like, hey, I can jump over you, man. I've done this. I can jump this high.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Like, you got to know.
Yeah.
You got to know. And if honestly, part of this is the scouting report on Dirk. Like, Dirk, you have to know if this guy's capable of that or not. Because why are you going to put? You're way too old to have to go out there and deal with neck trauma at your big age.
That's great. If you could do one, not superhero stuff, in a sport, be great at one unbelievable, like jump real high, be real fast in whatever sport. What would you want to do? I would love to be able to jump ungodly high one time in my life.
I would have loved to have been good at any single one of those things, let alone great at them. Strong, fast, able to jump high. Jumping high is objectively the coolest one, but if I want to dunking over someone in the dunk contest has never looked all that cool to me. So I think the juice isn't even worth the squeeze on this. Speaking of juice, though, Claudia, let's get to the third. One mascot has a tremendous amount of it, especially in New York right now.
Yeah, Grimace has the arm strength, that is for sure, and he's helping the Mets be good for once this season. They're undefeated since Grimace threw out the first pitch. They're 5-0 since that. He threw it out at Citi Field on Wednesday night, and yeah, I mean, he got
honestly,
there.
Grimace threw smoke.
Yeah.
You know what? He wasn't all the way in front of. He was on the dirt. A lot of people do it on the grass in front of the mound because they don't watch on the mound. He's got both feet in the dirt, and he just about reached the plate in that Grimace outfit. No, all kidding aside, one of the best first pitches I've seen, given the circumstances of whatever the hell a Grimace is.
Yeah, Grimace is, I think, just like an evil mask. Like the 70s, the original, we were looking this up before the show. The original McDonald's campaign introduced him in the 70s as Evil Grimace. He's one of like the counter characters in the McDonald's character universe. And he made the re-up. The reason I can go along with the evil thing, because they had his birthday a while back. Grimace turned 52 last June.
Okay.
And they brought back a Grimace birthday shake at McDonald's. And Gen Z kids on TikTok made some of the scariest stuff I've ever seen. It was terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Real, like, true horror movie stuff that they're far too capable of. But apparently, Grimace worth celebrating because, like you said, built like an actual pear with flippers like a sea animal, and basically one-hopped it directly over the plate here. That's a dub as far as I'm concerned.
Completely agree.
50 Cent can't show his face anywhere yet again anymore in New York.
Completely agree. I still want to know, though, when you're making Grimace and the costume, what's in mind? What is a Grimace?
I mean, the same thing that you get when you talk about like Western Kentucky's mascot, like Big Red, all that stuff, just blob. I miss the day and age where character development was as simple as we have color and we have blob. And blob is going to help us sell hamburgers. And in this case, blob is going to help the New York Mets win baseball game.
5 in a row.
They desperately seem to need. We'll see if Steve Cohen can screw this up too. But in the meantime, this is going to be awesome. You ride that wave and you don't think about it. Blob helps sell burgers. Blob helps throw pitches. And hopefully in this case, Blob will convince you to download, subscribe, rate, and review this show here. Thank you to Grimace for all of his help in aiding us and the Mets. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.